Hello everyone, it's Menenberg. We're now about halfway through the history content for our AP class, and it's probably worthwhile to pause and talk short answers again. Why? Because short answers are the building block for all of the writing tasks on the AP exam, and because they're hard, right? And we need practice, particularly with the stimulus-based ones. I've noticed in some of the exams that we've given so far that these stimuli, or these passages that you have SAQs for, tend to trip some people up. Now, why does that matter? Because, true or false, 2 out of the 3 on the AP exam are stimulus-based. True. You gotta learn how to do this. There's no other way around that. People, it's time to figure this out, okay? Does that mean it's time to panic? You're gonna see it. You know you're gonna see it. But how come when you see it, you start to panic? You don't need to. In fact, all it means is you just need to learn how to read and, more importantly, understand what you're reading. So I figured, why not do a little practice? Okay? Oh, mercy. Menenberg, you violated one of the principal PowerPoint rules of all time, and that is do not overcrowd a slide. There's no way we're actually going to read this. Don't worry, people. This is just an example of, in fact, 2 passages you would have to read and understand in order to answer a couple short answer prompts. So I wanted to give you the visual, first of all, so that you started to panic, and then I wanted you to catch yourself and just take a deep breath, because we're going to go through these prompts and figure out they're not actually that complicated. Hopefully you'll walk away with a couple tips and tricks so that you don't have to panic next time you get a short answer question with a stimulus. Okay, let's ignore this and look over here. Prompt A. Describe Crosby's argument about the interactions that occurred between the Americas and Europe, Asia in the period 1450 to 1750. Sounds easy enough, but what does it actually mean? This is one of the areas that students get tripped up for multiple choice, short answer, long essay, and document-based questions. They don't understand what is being asked. And if you don't practice this regularly, you're going to start thinking things that aren't actually what is being asked. And you're going to do it wrong, and you're going to get it wrong as a result. So let's break it down. This prompt is basically asking you to reword, don't quote, the main argument of the guy and give outside evidence to support the author's argument, what the author is saying. Okay, so I do have to read this. I do have to understand what it's saying. But here's where students get tripped up. They look at this and they're like, okay, what's the author's argument? Why don't I just paraphrase or summarize the entire thing and do nothing else? Or why don't I just throw in some quotes from the passage? It tells the reader I read it and maybe even understand what it means. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Do not ever quote. Don't do that, people. We already have it. We don't need you to read it to us or rewrite it for us. Not helpful. In fact, it's telling the reader that you don't in fact know what the prompt is asking, because the prompt is not asking you for that. The prompt is asking you to reword the main argument. Okay? So you're going to have to read through this fairly quickly, by the way, and get the main argument that the author is saying. So you write what that is in your own words, and then you simply find some stuff from the history content to support what the author is saying. It's not super complicated, but again, my friends, it happens too often. I see students just start paraphrasing and quoting and summarizing. You're not giving me anything new. And this is where you give me something new. You gotta tell me what you know, okay? It's not explicitly asked. Remember, if we look at this, it doesn't say give specific evidence outside of the text. But every single prompt, you should make that assumption. You gotta go beyond the passage. Okay, let's look at the next one. Explain one way in which the biological impact referred to in the passage differed from other encounters between the Americas and Europe, Africa in the period 1450 to 1750. We're not gonna write this answer for this question right now. That is not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to give you a time to adjust, to not panic, and to figure out that these prompts aren't really asking you to do something crazy hard. Okay, in fact, this one, the task is to compare this, and just spoiler alert, this is talking about a positive impact of the interaction. So to compare this with maybe something that's not so great that happened as a result of the old and the new world colliding, right? We call this the Columbian Exchange. So that's what we're doing. Does it have to be biological? No, the prompt doesn't give you that parameter. The prompt says other encounters. That could be any kind of encounter. That could be biological, that could be cultural, that could be social, that could be political. There's a lot of different types of encounters that happen with the old and the new world during this time period. So all I got to do is pick one that's different, right? Because it says that differed. This is a positive one, so maybe talk about a negative one. That's not that complicated. But again, I am only demonstrating understanding by mentioning that this interaction, this corn thing that this guy is talking about, is a positive thing. It really impacted the world in a good way. Well, not all the stuff that happened was good from the Columbian Exchange. We know this, okay, obviously. And so that's all this prompt is asking. I don't have to quote this. I have to demonstrate that I know that he's saying corn is good, but I don't have to quote it. And I certainly need to go well beyond what this passage is saying in order to do well on this prompt. I got to talk about something else. Something else is not going to be in here. So stop quoting. Stop paraphrasing. Stop summarizing. Don't do that nonsense. Okay? Let's take a look at one last one here. Explain one historical situation in the period 1450 to 1750 other than the one illustrated in the passage, which states experienced environmental impact. Oh, so many words that are confusing. Not really, people. Practice. Give a different example of environmental impact during this time period. Does it have to be in the same location? No. People, this is not that complicated. Again, states, that's just another word for other governments or empires. China, Europe, not Europe, England, Portugal, Spain, France, Russia, Ottoman Empire, Safavids, Mughals, anyone who's around during this time period, right? 1450 to 1750, it's all good. But we're looking for environmental impact, okay? Environmental impact. So it can't be the same environmental impact, because, right, it says, give me one that's other than the one illustrated in the passage. So I just got to give something different, specific, outside evidence, not in the passage. Do I need the passage for this? No. What I do need is to understand what it is saying, so I don't duplicate that in my answer. Okay, I don't want to say the same thing that the passage is saying, because that's exactly the opposite of what is being asked. Okay? Again, people, I hope you can dial down the panic for this type of stimulus-based question, this type of short answer question, because you're going to get them. You're going to have to do two. It may not be a passage too, it might be an image, right? We've seen that in years past on the exam. The key is to really dive into what is being asked and to decipher that in your own words so that you can go beyond that passage, beyond that stimulus, and give a concrete answer with specific outside evidence. Okay, so just a couple of quick reminders. Always, every single SAQ, no matter if it's stimulus-based or not, always answer the question. Always cite specific evidence. In the case of a stimulus-based one, evidence outside of the passage. Okay? And remember, that means you got to pin down a time, a place, a person, a thing, something that is unique. Something that didn't also happen exactly the same way over here or in the exact same way in this time period. It's got to be unique. That's what specific is referring to here. Okay? Singular. You always want to expand or explain that evidence with additional specific details. Again, not from the passage. I always find a helpful way to do that is to talk about the effects of this or the implications of this. Now, if you want more details about what this specifically looks like, go back and watch the other SAQ videos. Okay, they're helpful. But you have to do this every single one. A, B, and C. 1, 2, 3. Every single SAQ, you got to do this. Doesn't matter if there's a stimulus or not. Here's some things you never want to do. Quote the passage. I beat this one up a lot in this video, but I'm saying it again. Don't do it. There's no reason to ever do it. Unless the prompt says, what is the most important phrase in this passage? And then it's not going to ask you that. Don't do it. Never repeat yourself. This is a challenge, especially when it comes to this expansion or explanation part. A lot of students think they just rephrase something that they already said. It's going to put an exclamation point on their answer. And what it does is tell the reader that you don't know how to expand this, so you're just going to give a summary kind of statement. Not worth doing. You don't have the time. You certainly don't have the space, so save it. Don't repeat yourself. And I don't mean word for word repeating. I mean don't repeat the idea that you already put out there, okay? Don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't need to. Lastly, don't speak vaguely, okay? I said specific twice up here, but it's worth mentioning. Students often get tripped up and start to think that they can speak vaguely about a historical event or a process or the argument that the author's making. It's not going to work, people. These readers are pretty smart, generally speaking. They know what they're looking for in your answer, and if you're speaking vaguely, they're going to see that you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what your answer is, and so you're not going to get any points for that. Not worth the time, not worth the space on a short answer question in particular, okay? Oh, sorry, one more. Don't double dip your evidence. Now this is important because if you remember from our 2 prompts that we looked at today, 2 of those prompts, the B and the C, had asked you to talk about something other than what was going on in the passage. So theoretically, your answer might have been very similar. You might have talked about a negative effect, impact, environmental, that answers the prompt. But you can't use the same evidence for B and for C. So it's really important that you get in the habit of reading those prompts before you get too far in your answers so that your specific evidence is different enough. Now, could you answer the Mongols for B and for C? I don't know about this one, but in general, yes. The specific evidence has to be unique for each of those prompts though, okay? They have to specifically answer that prompt and they have to be different from each other. You cannot double dip, and that's something that students often get tripped up on. They get panicked, they don't read the prompts ahead of time, and by the time they get to C, they've already kind of thought, oh, that's the best answer for C. I don't want to go back and rewrite B, so I'm just going to write the same. Don't do it, okay? Get in the habit now, you're going to be in good shape. All right, that's all I got for you today, people. I hope this is helpful. If you want to send me your samples, email them to me, put them in the comments, let me know how I can help, and hopefully your short answers are going to improve. More importantly, hopefully your stimulus-based short answers are going to improve and you're not going to panic. All right, people, remember, life is about choices. We'll see you next time.